Well, praise the Lord, everyone. We are back with another episode of the Not Ashamed podcast. We are here once again for the third time. Sister Carisse.
Yes, I'm very excited to be here. Thank you.
Yes, and in today's episode, we're going to be talking about relationship with God, what that means, what that looks like, and how to achieve a closer relationship with Him.
And that is so important in this day and age to stay close to God and really foster that relationship with Him because He's our everything. So, I would like to start by talking about really just my childhood. I got into that a bit on our video games episode, really just time wasting and how addictive video games can be. So I've grown up in church my entire life. My mom and dad married, and then it was my grandpa's dying wish that they get into church. My mom has a Catholic background. My dad actually would come on the Sunday school bus, and so by age 12, he ended up getting his family in church. And so then I've grown up Apostolic Pentecostal throughout church my entire life, which has been such an incredible blessing. So I've grown up in church my whole life, going to Sunday school and gone to youth camps. And I mean, church has been everything for me. A lot of times my dad would only come on Sunday mornings. And so, like with Sunday school, he's the one that first taught me to color in the lines when I was just wanting to scribble all over the page at like, I don't know, 4, 5, 6. And he's also the one that would make me a fruit bowl, and I'd be like, no, but I want the cupcake. Like the entire class is getting cupcakes, and he's like, no, eat this fruit bowl first. And now, I mean, those are such incredible memories, and I do appreciate him for doing that. Yes, I mean, the cupcake always tasted better, because I never liked being healthy as a kid, but just those moments that I can look back on and how much he cared and what a good dad he was. Um, Church was my social life. I've been homeschooled my whole life from kindergarten to high school. And I mean, I loved preaching, I loved music, I loved God, and I loved and respected my pastor. My friend group, I mean, because I was homeschooled, my friend group was pretty much just, I'd see them on Sundays and Tuesdays, and we'd try to go out to eat maybe, and I'd go over to their house and we'd play between services and things like that. Like, church was literally my everything. And so at age 6, and this is where I honestly, my mom had to help me remember this because I don't remember all the details because I was only 6. But I was 6 years old. It was for my birthday, and my mom asked me what I wanted for my birthday. And I mean, as a kid, all the things you could ask for as a literal 6-year-old. Oh, I want to go to Disneyland. Oh, I want a new pet. Oh, I want this. Oh, I want that. And I said, I want to have coffee with my pastor, Brother Young. And so my mom reached out to him, knowing how busy he is and what his schedule's like. Well, then he did make time. And one morning we went to a coffee shop and had coffee and talked, and just to know how much he cared. This is how much he truly loves people, and this is how much pastors should love the saints of their church, that he will literally take time out of his busy schedule to go have coffee with a 6-year-old. And that memory has stayed forever because it was so incredibly kind of him, and that made me as a little 6-year-old so happy that he took his time and we had a fun conversation, and to be able to spend time together was so valuable because time with my pastor is the best present to me.
Yeah, I agree with that. Growing up, I wasn't always a pastor's kid until a little bit later, around age 11, 12, and I know what it's like for pastors to have to make time for the saints. Um, and like if my mom and dad had to teach someone a Bible study, me and my sister would just let them go and do that, and then we would play by ourselves. And so that's ingrained into me, like the making time for people, and um, also is very difficult because when your dad is your dad your whole life, and then he becomes your pastor, then
Yeah.
it shifts, and it's like what's now? And sometimes he says, "I'm wearing my dad cap," and then I'm wearing my pastor cap now, and he like bipolar. He switches personalities. As a dad, he's real funny, um, lighthearted, and then pastor, he's very serious. And I don't know who I'm talking to sometimes. And then
Oh,
he's like,
wow.
"I'm your pastor." Then the next sentence, "I'm your dad." I didn't mean it. So, but yeah, I understand what you're referring to, Pastor Young. That attitude of serving the church, making time for people the best you can. Sometimes there's not always time for that. That's why you got to make time. And this is kind of another subject, but you always have to make time. Time doesn't just come out of nowhere. Like,
Right.
you got to set time apart for the people of God. So I agree with what you said about that very strongly.
Yeah. Well, and so how I was homeschooled my whole life, my mom first started homeschooling me primarily to protect me from the ugliness of the world.
Hmm.
There are certain people that are my same age and younger that were put in public school from a young age. Now, that can be a good thing if you're able to influence your peers and friends in a public school environment in a positive, godly way. But if it goes the other direction, that can be very dangerous and hard for your soul. And thankfully, with being homeschooled, my whole social life centered around church, which was 3 times a week. It truly became my foundation. It was my community. It was my social life as well as my spiritual life. So, one aspect of being in church my whole life, um, in terms of family dynamics, my mom, when my mom and dad got into church and then raised me in church my whole life, my mom lived faithfully for God since from the time she got into church till even today in 2026. Like, I mean, she has an incredible prayer life. She's someone I look up to. I mean, she taught me by leading by example who a godly woman is, how she acts, how she behaves. Almost like you'd think of Proverbs 31 now. My mom showed me what a prayer life was. I remember the mornings I would wake up and my mom would be travailing for me, whether beside the bed or I'd hear her in her office, and I'd wake up in my pajamas and run in the other room to give her a big hug in the morning, and I'd hear her praying. And those mornings really did something to me because she truly exemplified a personal walk with God because she's my mom, so she's with me all the time. And yes, thankfully, going to the Rock Church my whole life, I have incredible ministry. Pastor Young, Bishop Wilson, Sister Young, prayer warriors, incredible. I mean, they have incredible walks with God. And God tells them very important things, and they're trusted with that information and trusted to lead the church to where it is today, which is such a high honor. And so, for God to give me the mom and dad, especially my mom, that He did, to be with me day in, day out, to raise me, I could never ask for someone better. So, for as much as my mom was coming to church every single service, did have an incredible prayer life, did have an incredible walk with God, my dad, on the other hand, really struggled. From about age 3, he got lukewarm. and basically backslid. He would come on an occasional Sunday morning. He'd bring me that fruit bowl in Sunday school, and instead of the cupcake, and then he'd be like, "You can have the cupcake after." Those are such core memories. And on the way home, I'd be like, "Mom, like I want to drive with Dad home," because then, he'd tell me just very imaginative stories. Like animals would just come to life. And I mean, those memories were just they're so special. So as I got older, from about age 8, when I first started noticing, oh, my dad doesn't come to church every service. Oh, my dad listens to worldly music. Oh, my dad, this thing and that thing. When I finally started noticing, and my mom and I would have these conversations, especially driving, because my dad did construction, and so he was gone a lot, and so then my mom would have to take me to either a learning center, to learn with other Christian homeschool kids, or I would just be going with her to work in a back room, get my schoolwork done. Well, those long car rides provided a great time for us to talk. And that's really just how I got so close with my mom over the years, is because, and just side note, you need a parent that you can trust with everything and tell anything to. And that's exactly who she was. We'd get in the car and be talking, and yes, I could tell her about what was going on in my life or what I was thinking or feeling, but just to have her insight and her guidance, and to know that I can tell her something without her judging me first. So about that same time, my mom and I were also having deeper conversations about my dad, because as he was not living the standard of our church, he wasn't coming every service. He would listen to worldly music. He would do different things that were not in alignment with what the Bible says, and not in alignment with our church standards, and not in alignment with a walk with God. And even at age 8, my mom began explaining these are his problems. One of them was that my dad was a very intense personality. He would go from either being all in 100% or nothing. And so that's why, one of the reasons he struggled a lot in his walk with God, is because there were times when my mom and dad were newly married, they would come to church and he just felt that fire. My mom has stories that my dad in our old house, he would just be travailing in their master bedroom for hours. He's seen demons and angels, and he has had such a powerful walk with God himself. But that's also why when he backslid, when he said, "Oh, it's okay, I'll just come one Sunday every so often, I'll just do this thing or do that thing, it doesn't matter that much." He was sacrificing the fire that he had. He was sacrificing his anointing for shallowness and nothing of substance and sustenance. It wasn't that lifestyle. Like, sin is only fun for a season. And anything without God will ultimately become miserable. And so even at 8 and 9 and 10, my mom would have conversations with me about how, because of my dad's intense personality, he would either be lukewarm or on fire. He would start drifting spiritually, and his lukewarmness became very dangerous. And he stopped attending church regularly. He let his hair even grow out. And he continued that slippery slope, which, one of the things, even at that young age, I had to learn. My mom taught me that I still need to respect my dad because he is my father, and I still need to love him because he's my father. But I can't follow in his footsteps. I can't follow his actions because he's not leading by spiritual example. So I have to respect him. But if I were to imitate his walk, that would become extremely spiritually unhealthy for me. And that goes for any person, parent. You have to respect them, but if they're not living according to what the Bible says, according to God's will, according to what that church teaches, they are spiritually unhealthy. And that is not someone that you should spiritually look to for guidance and alignment and to follow in their actions. My mom wanted me to understand the standards of our church young because she saw the actions of my dad and did not want me to follow in his footsteps because she cared about my soul. And so on those long car rides, she helped me understand standards, understand holiness, understand the why behind what we do and why we do it. And we do it because of how much God has done for us, how much he loves us and how much we love him. It's a relationship. It's a two-way street. And so from a young age, she taught me to understand standards, holiness, why we live for God. And one of the key things she implemented in me early is that standards are not just rules. They're never just a book of rules. That's the difficulty with children growing up, Apostolic Pentecostal, is that sometimes the rebellious ones tend to look at holiness and standards as a rule book. And instead of realizing that you're making God's heart so happy when you do that because it's a relationship. It's not, oh, this is just a rule. I'm just going to wear a skirt on Sunday because I have to. I'll be in jeans tomorrow. It's fine. Like, no. Because what would that do to God if you came in a beautiful dress on Sunday and jeans on Monday? Even if you made the excuse, oh yeah, well it's just my job. My supervisor won't let me. Well, does God want you to change jobs? I've seen many young people leave church. Even my best friend at age 13, her parents divorced and other family situations happened, and she backslid, and her siblings all backslid. And thinking how many people can live for God until they're 18 and really mean it and really get that seed planted in them, because if they don't, they could be out the doors before 18. All of those times they were sitting in that church pew getting preaching and they still walked away by age 18. It's sobering that for 18 years, whether because of their family situation or because they weren't planted well in the soil of the church, maybe their social life was the church. They wanted to go out to eat after Sunday service. They didn't feel like going up to the front and praying. They just waited in the back until their friends were ready so they could go to a restaurant and talk and gossip, and because they wanted to feel included. But what happens when one of those friends gets called to be a missionary? What happens when one of those friends gets called to be a preacher or preacher's wife, or just leaves for college, or life happens, right? What happens when those people go on their God-given plan? 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, all of their connections stripped away. One thing that greatly impacted my faith was when I was age 10 and my dad had become very sick. Now, my mom and I had talked openly about his disease. It was ALS, also known as Lou Gehrig's disease, which attacks the nervous system. And normally patients with this, because there's no cure, they can last anywhere from 2 to 5 years. And it depends of the patient's lifestyle and how healthy they are. Now, I mean, he was very healthy, and so for him to, in a matter of months, go from just weird back pain to a cane to a walker to a wheelchair to a hospital bed, from approximately November to he was diagnosed in early January, and then by March and April, he was already in the hospital bed. His decline was so rapid, but because of how open my mom and I are about talking about it, like even at age then 11, like I was aware what he was going through, and I knew at some point he would pass away. And as heartbreaking as that was at 11 years old, to know that I won't get my dad's hugs anymore. I mean, when I was a kid, I just felt like he had such big hands that could just wrap around me, and he felt so safe. And I loved his hugs. I loved his stories. There were so many things that seeing him in this hospital bed, just knowing that he won't make it to my next birthday. I had just turned 11. Like, he won't make it maybe till when I turn 12. He won't be there for my sweet 16. He won't be there for when I start driving. He won't be there for when I graduate high school. He won't be there for my first job and trips and vacations and wedding day and children and future, and he wouldn't be a part. He wouldn't be able to walk me down the aisle. He wouldn't be able to celebrate me when I graduate high school or when I graduate another degree or when I, like, any of my accomplishments, like, he wouldn't be there. And to know that and be okay with that, because I saw the lifestyle firsthand that he was living. And I made up in my mind at 11 years old, I don't want to follow in his footsteps. I don't want that. I don't want that for myself. I don't want that for other people, because I care about the church. The church and Jesus and the pastoral leadership of the Rock Church, that was everything to me. Again, that was my social life. I grew up there. And so, with my dad passing away in mid-April, because of all the conversations that my mom and I had and being in the church, I realized, because of his lifestyle, that sickness was the opportunity for him to get right with God. I still have a video. I was homeschooling with a family at the time, like Monday through Thursday. Well, they would take me to services on Sunday because my mom was taking care of my dad. Well, in our tiny home back then, I remember my dad in his wheelchair went out on the front porch, and my mom happened to have the Sunday morning service on in the background, and worship service was going on. And my mom videotaped him crying with his hands raised in a wheelchair. And I mean, she had to stop the recording quickly because he looked inside and almost noticed that she was recording, and she didn't want him to know. But having that memory that God is so merciful. God will go to the greatest lengths to save someone, even when they don't even look like they deserve it. But whether they do deserve it or not, whether to our human flesh we think, well, they certainly couldn't deserve that. He died on the cross. He loves them that much. Even when they turn away from him, he still gives them mercy. And I'm so grateful for that because I realized it gave me an eternal perspective. God gave my dad an opportunity to get right, and God took him home saved. He got to see me get baptized. I'd gotten the Holy Ghost the year before. And I mean, him getting to see me get baptized, and he came in the wheelchair, we got him to church, and getting to pray together, it was such an incredible moment. And I got to the point one Sunday where I had seen his decline, his rapid decline. Doctors weren't even believing, like, how is he declining this fast? Like, there's no way the disease doesn't do that. Well, the mercy of God does, because God didn't want him suffering longer than he should. Because sometimes God uses suffering and trials, just like we spoke about in the worship episode. God uses suffering and trials because sometimes that's the only way someone will get close to him, is because they're suddenly like, oh my goodness, my life is falling apart. I got this thing happening, or I lost this job, or this disease, or this or that. And they're like, God, you're my only option. It's sad when God has to allow. I don't believe God gives people trials because he loves them and he created them in his perfect image, but he allows, because we're in a fallen world. He allows the trial to come because he loves you that much, that if he knows that this trial is the only way that you will say, Jesus, I love you. Jesus, you're my everything. Jesus, I resubmit my life to you. He will allow that to happen because he wants a relationship with you and he desires to be close to you. He desires to be your best friend. He desires to be the love of your life. And so, seeing my dad rapidly decline like that, I realized this is the mercy of God. And my prayer for months had been, God, I'm 11. I'm still a kid. Like, I want my dad to be here for my graduation. I want my dad to be here for my wedding day. I want my dad to be here for all these future goals and ambitions and things I'll be doing later in life, like my sweet 16 birthday party, or when I turn 21, or all of those milestones. And so my prayer was, God, heal him here. I want my dad to be saved on earth because I want him to still be here. I want him to still experience. I want him to still be there for me. And that Sunday, I was praying in the altar that Sunday night, and I changed my prayer from God, heal him here, to I see his suffering, and I know he's resubmitted your life to you, to I see his suffering, and I know he's resubmitted his life to you with the brain that he still has, that the disease has not taken yet, and the amount of the depth of his thoughts, like as deep as he can think, that that he did resubmit his life to God. And that Sunday night, my prayer changed to, God, I want him saved. Above all, I care most about his soul. So if your will is not for him to be healed here on earth because he's prone to intensity, I don't know in 5 years down the road if he would have walked away from God and would have ended up in a worse situation. I don't know. And again, that's the mercy of God, because God used a trial to get my dad closer to God, to heal him and save him and take him home. Because that Sunday, and this was when God would just speak to me in thoughts, not like a voice in my head. So there was this thought that I knew was definitely not for me. I'm at the altar praying and crying, and I just feel like, God, I'm okay if you take him home. I just want him saved. That is the ultimatum. I just want him saved. And I had this thought that if my dad passed away in a month, would I be okay? He would be in heaven, but how would I cope? If my dad passed away in a week, how would I cope? If my dad passed away Tuesday, now Sunday night, I go home, fall asleep. Monday comes, my mom picks up breathing medication for him. That way he can sleep better at nighttime. And that way he's not waking himself up feeling like he can't breathe. Well, the medication did the opposite effect. Tuesday morning, I wake up. My mom wakes me up frantic. And my dad is struggling for every breath. We call 911. We get to the hospital. He passes away that afternoon. And I cried myself. I bawled my eyes out that night in bed because I was so heartbroken about losing my dad. But I knew it was God's mercy that he's in heaven and safe and saved and healed. There's no more pain. There's no more suffering. There's no more tears. Tears of joy, but he's not up there crying. He's having the time of his life. And that was such a poignant time in my life because at age 11, seeing that literally, I asked God that he can be saved. And through thoughts, God answers my prayer directly. From that Sunday to that Tuesday. And I walked out of the hospital holding my pastor's hand and just saying, God did it. God gave me the miracle I asked for. My dad just died. But God gave me the miracle. God answered my prayer. And that was really the turning point to me fully trusting God, knowing that God hears my prayers and God answers my prayers. Because my dad dying became faith building and so spiritually formative for my younger self looking back. And also the fact that God in his loving kindness was protecting me from an unhealthy influence as I grew up, as I would have gotten older, and God was saving him. So now someday when I go to heaven, I get to walk on streets of gold, meet Jesus, which, who he is and everything he's done. I don't even know what I'll do when I actually come to face with someone I've absolutely adored and loved, and he's literally my everything. I'll probably fall apart sobbing and then he'll just hug me. Like, I don't even know. But to be able to see my dad and to be able to see my siblings, my brother and two sisters, and they're walking on streets of gold, clouds, castles. I don't know what it looks like up there, but they're having the time of their lives, and I can't wait to be up there and see them. And I can't wait to meet God face to face. And so at age 11, losing my dad, that was the starting point of my relationship with God, of trusting him, of realizing he's got my back. And He helps me and he protects me and he loves me.
Well, that was very good. About trust and mercy. Uh, we talk a lot about the mercy of God because God is very merciful. But mercy to the human eye might look different in God's perspective. God, have mercy on me. I need you to save me. He might send you let the devil come and hit you with a sickness that it destroys your body, but it draws you back to God. And that was mercy. Um, Lots of different things. Loss of family members, friends. My gosh, that was mercy. Um,
Yeah.
that was mercy right there. Losing some people, mercy. I remember very early in my ministry, this group of friends that I had, lost them all. We still talk, but we're not on the same level. And I prayed and I said, God, why did this happen? You know, the devil took them. Like the devil took them, and God told me to open up my Bible, and it was David praying about losing his friends.
Oh,
And
wow.
David says, God, it was you that removed them from me. And then God said, don't ever give credit to the devil for what I'm doing. And that opened up because that was early. That was 4 years ago. That opened up my mind to understand that the Lord giveth and the Lord taketh away. But blessed be the name of the Lord. Because if I had that friend group to this day, I would not be where I am right now.